Today's business headlines. With help with that, let's bring in global business consultant, British commentator and expert, Hilary Fordwich. Hilary, great to see you this morning.
Pleasure, Alison, always.
So, Hilary, the market's finishing down Friday to cap off an incredibly turbulent week. Futures are up this morning ahead of the opening bell. This week filled with earnings reports from multiple companies, including Tesla, Netflix, Verizon, and Walmart. Hilary, what should investors be watching for?
Well, you're right, Alison. This is going to be an absolutely huge week. I mean, the home builder report that's going to come out tomorrow is going to be huge. Why? Because we're going to actually see what the consumer has the confidence to do moving forward. What the consumer's going to do after seeing gas prices the way they are, grocery prices the way they are, that's going to drastically affect home builders. And we know that has a ripple effect throughout the entire economy. So home builders and then housing starts as well this week. You'll also see transportation reports coming in from the airlines. That's going to be huge as well. Why? Because we know people travel depending on what's immediately in their pocketbook. So this is going to be a really big week.
Yeah, I was looking at airline prices, and those prices, they are so high, Hilary. I think it's going to be very difficult for people to travel this holiday season. Thousands of people, Hilary, took to the streets of Paris to protest against soaring prices. Can you compare the contrast with the French economy to America's? Because obviously we know they're going through inflation and issues that we are similarly here at home.
Oh, Alison, you're absolutely correct. I am not surprised at all, and many have predicted there is going to be global unrest. There's a predictor usually that comes out of Europe. By the way, I will give you an analogy here, or actually in a direct report. Before COVID, 3 northern Italian towns shut their borders, and so did the Austrian border, 3 days before we heard anything about drastic measures here in the US with COVID. So I looked at a lot of things that happen in Europe, and then they come here. So you're totally correct. Those protests are directly with regard to rising prices, energy prices, what they call petrol over there, petrol prices, and also, of course, don't forget, they're closer to the war in the Ukraine. They're feeling it far more, and they're actually in the streets protesting what is going to come here.
Wow. Yeah, another industry that's feeling it, Hilary, is the crabbing industry in Alaska. So it accounts for $200 million harvest and conservation. So there's basically a decision to cancel this crab harvest. It's going to impact the state. We're going to be talking to an Alaskan crab fisherman coming up in the show. But Hilary, what economic impacts will this have on Alaska?
Oh, you're totally correct again, Alison. I mean, look, this is the Bering Straits. This is the Bristol Bay. Why is this so important? Because there isn't anywhere really else for these crabbers to turn. I think something that's also very sad is, of course, crab is so healthy. You know, we've all gone through COVID. What's good for your immune system? To eat fish, to eat seafood. So this is going to affect the Alaskan community. It's going to affect the Alaskan economy. And it's going to affect the ability for Americans to buy fish or seafood at a time when also we're going to have problems in our entire supply chain. Why? Because of the fertilizer impacts from the Ukraine is going to affect crops this year and next year. You compound that with crabs. So it's going to affect Alaska, but it's going to affect actually all Americans. We should all be concerned.
Yeah, you're right. I remember going to the store even last year, Hilary, and the cost of crab legs was so high. We usually get them for New Year's Eve. We said, forget it, we're not doing it. And if you're lucky enough to find them too. Hilary, also Americans' 401ks, they're getting knocked out. Since President Biden took office, the average 401k plan is down $34,000. So combine this with inflation, how are Americans even supposed to think about retiring?
Well, yes, actually, you better get working. Roll up your sleeves again, Americans. A few things here. Number one, I mean, obviously, this is terrible for anybody who's going to be, funding that. Something that's very important for our viewers to remember, when they established Social Security, the average longevity, in other words, the life expectancy, was far lower than it is today. Do you know it was set in the 19th century and it's never been raised? Why,
wow.
How does that impact us? Because all of us that are paying taxes, if they'd only indexed Social Security funding to life expectancy, we wouldn't have this mess. If the unborn child isn't going to protest, the 1-year-old isn't going to protest. If this right now, the best thing that any politician can do when we have the Republican sweep in November, index Social Security now to life expectancy, and then this wouldn't happen.
Well, hopefully they listen to you, Hillary, because that makes a lot of sense. All right, I find that we have about 20 seconds, but Elon Musk and the Boring Company joining the perfume industry. They've claimed they've sold $2 million worth of this burnt hair perfume in just 24 hours. I don't know if you've heard of this, but the perfume is supposed to smell like the essence of repugnant desire. I don't see you as somebody who would wear that. Will you be buying a bottle of this burnt hair?
Oh, you know me that well, Alison. You're correct again, yet again. Like all these points for Alison today. Few things here. Number one, obviously, when I first heard this headline, I was like, what? Yeah. When you actually look behind the curtain, as you know, I like to do my research. I like to know the facts about everything. This is actually when Elon Musk actually asked for people to buy this to fund his purchase of Twitter. So really, what this is, it's like saying, would you do something literally repugnant? No. Yeah. But he's actually pointing out how absolutely ridiculous it is. Obviously, how biased Twitter is, and he's getting people to support him. I think that's a fascinating story. I'm glad you raised it for our audience.
Yeah, I think now I do want to know what it smells like, though, so I may have to go find it and just, I'll let you know. I won't be wearing it.
Candle. Burn those beautiful locks on a candle, and you'll know without spending the money.
All right, Hilary Fordwich, great to have you. Have a great week.